Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining today's energy talk on the Georgian market opportunities from hydropower to renewables. This is our fifth webinar since we started the series in December. And if you have an idea for an energy talk or would like to be involved in one, naturally, we would be delighted to hear from you. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items so that you know how to participate in today's session. At any point, you will be able to submit your questions to today's speakers. As time allows, our speakers will address them at the end during Q&A. To do so, just please type your question into Q&A at the bottom of the control panel. And you can also upvote the questions and comment on them. So hopefully this is going to be quite interactive session. We would like to express our gratitude to today's presenting sponsor company, Photomate, and their partners Huawei and X-Electric Power. Photomate has built a leading position in the field of solar inverters for commercial and residential use. The goal of the company is to supply a reliable and smart solar energy equipment with maximum technical support for their customers. And they have opened Central Asia and Caucasus Regional Distribution Center in Georgia. Without further ado, I would like to introduce today's speakers. We have Daniel Potash with us, specialist leader at Deloitte Consulting. We have Tornike Cincharauli, country manager, Georgia Photomate. Georgi Chikovani, CEO at Georgian Energy Development Fund, Georgi Abramishvili, General Director at Georgian Renewable Energy Development Association, and Lasha Aplisashvili, Head of Energy Construction Real Estate Practice at BLC Law Office. Thanks a lot to our speakers for making this event possible. And also thanks to the event partner Greta and also the organizations that have supported us like GDF, PLC Law Office, and the European Ukrainian Energy Agency, Eurosolar Georgia, and also Bureau Veritas. Thanks to our media partner Vogue News. Thank you, and I think we can wrap up the introduction part here, and then the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anessa. My name is Dan Potash. I'm a specialist leader with Deloitte Consulting US. And I've been in Georgia now for 3 years, working on a USAID project to promote the use of renewable energy in Georgia and also to align Georgia's energy sector more with that of the European Union. So that project, I think, received good marks because Georgia took very significant steps in the last 3 years to create really landmark legislation for making a competitive energy market and to significantly upgrade and increase the amount of renewable energy. Georgia is a very dynamic country, and there's a lot going on here. So this seminar gives us a very good look from different perspectives about the Georgian energy market, from the perspective of government, the legal profession, from a supplier, and from a developer. So let us jump right in, and we'll first hear from Georgi Chikovani, who's with the Georgian government, the Georgian Energy Development Fund. Georgi?
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this conference. It's very nice to see so many participants, and hopefully soon we will be able to meet with each other in a live conference, not online conference, and share our progress and share our plans face to face. I will share my presentation and let's start. Can everyone see the screen? Yes? Okay.
Yep.
My name is Georgi Chikovani. I'm the head of Georgian Energy Development Fund. Before I go in details regarding fund, I would just quickly like to describe what are the state policy, Georgia state policy and strategy, energy strategy. And then let's discuss renewable energy sector. I will not be focusing on hydro more because I know Georgi and Lasha will touch on detail this field. So I'll be more focused on energy sector in general, our priorities, and our funds portfolio. So since Georgia gained its independence, our main strategy was to diversify our energy sources, and Georgia, I think it's a very good example of how a country which was dependent on one source for electricity, gas supply, diversified its sources and increased its energy security through diversification of routes and sources of energy supplies. Another big direction and our main direction is to support utilization of local renewable clean energy sources. And as you know, Georgia is rich of hydropower resources, but as latest development showed, we also are rich with wind, solar, and other renewable sources, which in combined with hydropower sources could become very attractive and very very practical and practical utilization of these sources, which could increase Georgia's energy security and could help Georgia meet its renewable energy targets, which we set for our long-term strategy. Another direction is, of course, gradual approximation of EU energy acquis. Georgia has signed the EU Energy Association in 2014, and part of this EU association, of course, was becoming a member of energy community, which we became full-fledged member in 2017, and this gave us opportunities and also new ways how to develop our market, how to increase our energy security, develop competitive market, and introduce legislation which is compliant with EU energy acquis. And in the future, hopefully, we will be physically joining an EU energy market. For now, we are island mode because we don't have any immediate neighbors who are members of EU. But even in this situation, we are firmly on the track to becoming a market which is fully compliant and fully in line with EU energy acquis. Just to give you a quick glance of our market development on electricity sector, in 2019 we started huge reforms. Actually, it was started much earlier with the help of donor community, with USAID, with EU donors, and the main idea of development new competitive market is to enable our energy sector to for competition, to deregulate the sector, to promote competition both on distribution, retail, the generation, and thus provide benefits to customers and to investors in our energy sector, especially in the renewable sector. This graph shows our approach, how we think that our market will look in 2025, where most of the markets will be deregulated. We are introducing this year a day-ahead market and balancing market. In July, according to our plan, power exchange will start operating, and we are moving to hourly markets like other developed countries. And this market, hopefully, and we are very confirmed that this reform is vital for our energy sector. This will lead to more benefits, not only for the customers, but it will create clear signals for developers, for generators, for traders, and it will enable regional trading of clean renewable energy. And Georgia is placed in very good position in order to enhance regional trade, which is vital for countries like Georgia, where seasonality and seasonal consumption pushes us to enable trade with our region, within region, and with our neighboring countries. We have very good history of partnering with our neighboring countries, but we think that this new market will strengthen these ties and will enable whole region to trade competitive basis and increase not only Georgia's security but also regional security through energy cooperation. Concerning the renewable legislation on renewable energy, there is a few legal primary and secondary legislation acts which was adopted by Georgia. I will quickly mention those. And this is diversification of energy sources, optimal utilization of local resources, law on Georgia on promoting the production and use of energy collected from renewable sources, which was adopted in 2019. National Renewable Action Plan 2019-2020, which was approved in 2019. Recent decree number 403 on approval of support scheme for the generation and consumption of energy from the renewable energy sources, and support scheme which is part of the renewable energy law. And the support schemes are various, and we will have time to introduce these support schemes step by step to support development of renewable energy sources in Georgia. For your information, our target for 2030 is to reach 35% of share of renewable energy sources in our total energy consumption. To move from policy to our Georgian Energy Development Fund portfolio, on this slide you can see the projects which was implemented by our fund. Our fund is 100% state-owned company. It's a joint stock company. 100% shares are owned by Georgia Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia. And main mission and objective of our fund is to support private led investments, local and international investments in renewable energy. In the beginning, in 2010, when this fund was established, the main idea was to support investments in hydropower sector, and I think the goal which was set for fund was successfully met, because as you can see from this slide, the number of hydropower projects which fund has started to develop was successful. In white colors, white coloring boxes are indicating projects which fund has developed and exited successfully. And we can name few projects like Daryali hydropower plant, 105 megawatts, Namakhwani hydropower plant, and the small and medium-sized power plants, which with private developers we developed and we exited, and some of them are already constructed and some of them are under development. With the blue color, you can see projects which we are currently developing with our private partners. Our idea is to have minority shares in projects, thus enable private sector more flexible format of operation. And we always have an exit strategy in all our projects. And it is nice to say that all projects which we developed were commercially viable, and we exited all projects with financial gain. So it means that since 2010, all projects which not only our fund, but also private companies developed were all commercially successful projects, which we are sure that will continue in that way. Georgian power sector will remain commercially interesting for local and international investors, and this new legislation and these new reforms will, of course, contribute to that. Just very quickly, I would like to mention that fund was the developer of the first wind project in Georgia, Kartli wind power plant, 21 megawatt. We developed this project in cooperation with Georgian Oil and Gas Corporation, and we privatized this wind farm in 2019 successfully. So this was the push for the development of the new renewable resource, wind resource in Georgia, along with hydropower. So currently we have 3 wind projects, Nigoza wind power plant, 50 megawatt, which we are developing with our Turkish partner Çalık Energy, and fund share is 15%. We are also developing Zestafoni wind power plant, same capacity, 50 megawatt, and we have 10% share in that project. And Ruisi wind power plant, small wind farm, 12.6 megawatt, and we also have 10% share. We anticipate that these projects will be online, will be operating in 2022, and those projects are very important, not only for the fund but for Georgia, because those projects will contribute to the deficit, winter deficit, so-called, which, as you know, Georgia imports electricity during 8 months, and we have surplus during 4 months, and those kind of projects will offset that imbalance and will increase our energy security and will create more volumes for Georgia to trade on the regional market. This year also, we think that will be turning point for the solar power plant. As you know, Georgia still doesn't have any utility-sized solar power plant. We are working quite a long time on new solar projects, and we think that the first project's construction will start this year. It's a 5 megawatt Udavno power plant, and we think that this will be the pioneer project, and the others will follow, same as in wind project. We are simultaneously also working on different projects like 25 megawatt Sagarejo power plant, and we also think that this project will move to active phase this year. And another very interesting project, 50 megawatt solar project, development phase will be completed this year. Here we have EBRD as our partner, and they're developing this feasibility study with the support of ministry and with Georgian Energy Development Fund. We expect in a couple of months that development work will be completed, and based on ministry's decision, the first auction will be conducted on the 50 megawatt solar plant, and we hope that as many participants will participate in the auction from over the world, and this project has all the basis to be successful project for the solar power development in Georgia. Along with the hydro, solar, and wind, our fund is also working on the alternative sources as well. We think that biomass resource has big potential in Georgia. We consume biomass for heating purposes mainly, but we would like to move this sector in more sustainable way. We would like to use better new technologies and to have sustainable approach to this resource, because deforestation is the risk for every country, and we would like to have this resource utilized in more efficient and more sustainable way. So we have first pilot project of poplar energy trees in West Georgia, and we think to use this as an energy fuel because the demand for briquettes, for pellets, for heating, for other industrial purposes is growing in Georgia. We import bio briquettes for energy briquettes already, and the demand is increasing. So we think that our local resources could be utilized in more efficient way. We also are analyzing and assessing other possibilities to use this resource, for instance, for to generate electricity, to generate heat for different industries. And I think the more time goes, this issue will be more and more priority for our energy security. And another interesting direction which we are currently working is biogas power plant. We are developing this feasibility with our potential partners, local partners, but we also use help of Tractable LNG as our consultants, and hopefully this year we will finalize and we will decide on the first project, 1 megawatt biogas power plant project, to be start construction. Although market prices are not so favorable because this technology requires more support from government, and maybe we will explore ways with other donors so they could participate to make this project commercially viable. And last but not least, the hot topic which we think that will become very important, and I would say it will be strategic direction for Georgia, and of course for the fund is development of green hydrogen, and we are working with our international partners as long as the local experts, local companies, and I don't want to go in details on the hydrogen, but we are hoping that this year it will be we will lay foundation to make first pilot project which will pave the way for commercial sector to be replicated, and Georgia could become big player in the region and in the world in producing green hydrogen, which will diversify our sources and our new markets, and will support commercial as well as public sector with new resources. So this is very brief about GDF. I would be very happy to answer any questions.
We have a couple of very interesting questions, Georgi. If we can get you to hang in, and we'll just change the order.
Sure.
So we have this first question about how to maintain sustainable water management in Georgia, merging it with hydropower and renewable energy capacities. And this last part I don't really understand, but digitalization. So do you want to talk about that?
Hydropower management. Can you repeat the question?
The question is how to find a way forward for sustainable water management as a resource in Georgia when merging hydropower, renewable energy, and digitalization.
This is very good question. We have many cases in the world where water has become cause of conflicts and even wars, and maybe today we don't see that in Georgia, but we we anticipate that soon water will be scarce because we have growing demand for hydropower generation, we have growing demand for irrigation, we have growing demand for drinking water, for industrial water use, and right management and central both local administration management, river-based management, which is being introduced in Georgia as well, according to the EU legislation. I think is the only correct way to manage this issue. We think that, of course, as an energy sector representative, that water should be prioritized, and of course hydropower should be priority. But if you ask agriculture representatives, they think that water should be used firstly for the agricultural purposes, and so on and so on. So this is a complex issue which cannot be addressed by only one ministry. It's a matter of government approach, both local and central government. And I think the legislation which is introduced in Georgia, EU legislation, this is something which has been proven in EU and in the world, and we don't want to invent a wheel. And any decision regarding the utilization of this resource should be subject of open discussions, and I think cost-benefit analysis should be part of this whole decision-making process.
Okay, let's just take one more question here because I know that you said you had to go, and then Anuki will get the rest of them in the main Q&A session. But what will be the Sagarejo solar tender, and have you developed a tariff scheme for that?
As I mentioned, the government resolution 403, which means that basically same approach, same support scheme for all renewable sources. Currently, our government has following approach. All resources are equal. We have technology neutral approach, and support for solar, wind, and hydropower power plants will be same. Well, for at least for today, we don't have any tariff evaluation and estimates for biomass and biogas projects yet, but for wind, solar, and hydro, government has set the feeding premium scheme, established this new approach, and we can discuss later what will be the exact numbers for that. But for Sagarejo power plant is no exception. The Sagarejo power plant will have similar support scheme, 1.5 feeding premium, and auction. The criteria for auction is not decided yet. It could be that the project will have this feeding premium, and the criteria for selecting the investors could be other criteria. Could be the amount of bank guarantee presented, of course, could be the financial history, financial background, strengths, experience, technological evaluation of the bidders, and so on. So currently we don't have the answer to that question, but we would like to have same approach for all the projects and have this feeding premium principle spread to all participants.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We'll try to get to Okay, we'll try to get to as many of those other questions in the general Q&A. So now
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Georgi. We have Georgi Abramashvili from the Georgian Renewable Energy Development Association. who will tell us, I think he will be going a little bit more in depth on hydro. And Georgi, you have the floor.
Hello, everybody. I don't know if you hear me. Hello, do you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you now.
Okay, hello, everybody. Good afternoon in Georgia and good morning in Europe. So thank you for joining on our session. So I am representing Georgian Renewable Energy Development Association in this case. We are uniting approximately 22 developers in the renewable energy with a lot of projects under the development or under the operation, which is covering almost 80% of our market. So I'll share now my screen. I think Georgi have to switch off. 1 second. Yes. So do you see my screen now?
Yes, we do.
Great. So in this presentation, I would like to speak about investing opportunities in the hydro energy business in Georgia. So starting a little bit about some general questions, you know, that the location of Georgia is offering, besides that Georgi was speaking, that so far it is an island. We are in the island mode, but we can offer connection in the future also to the Europe, Asia, GCC and CIC countries. Georgia is a prime location for a centralized market operation in the Black Sea region and reliable transit country. 1 second, I have to change this. I need 1 second to change the screen because I don't see the part. So here, yeah. I'm sorry. So, and we are also, yes, we are also very actively constructing our infrastructure and investing here in the infrastructure of the grid, of the railways, roads, seaports, and airports. So our country, we have also, quite an effective government, which is Georgia have earned a reputation for being a star reformer and raised its governance and investment climate ratings internationally. Georgia is actually one of the most business-friendly countries globally, placing the 7th place out of 190 countries in the World Bank's Doing Business in 2020 rankings. And the country has a shared consensus on national priorities, including participation in Euro-Atlantic integration, more efficient government, stronger growth, and a better functioning welfare state. And finally, this has paved also the way for the signing of the association agreement with the European Union in 2016, including a deep and comprehensive free trade area preferential trade regime. And also free trade agreements with the major trade partners like EU and China, positioning Georgia well to attract foreign direct investments. Transparency International Global Barometer of Georgia marked 4% as of 2020, indicating low corruption level in Georgia. And finally, Georgia has a sound of macroeconomic framework and attractive business environment and robust public financial management agreements that are expecting to support a post-COVID recovery. In the next slide, I would like to show a little bit, yes, this is about the World Bank ranking of doing business. As we mentioned, we are on the 7th place out of 190 countries. And here, as you see, we are on the highest level in the starting a business with the low bureaucracy and registering the properties in the country. Also, Fitch rating gave us in the last year and left Georgia sovereign credit rating unchanged on a BB level. So which admits the pandemic and the global uncertainty, the unchanged rating and the prospects indicates the confidence in Georgia's economic policy and macroeconomic environment. And which is also worth to mention that under the Fitch project, Georgia's economic growth will be by 4.3% in 2021 and by 5.8% in 2022. The agency report says Georgia's economic recovery will be higher than the average rate of countries in the BB category. So about the state energy policy, I will don't lose your time more. So Georgi Chikovani have spoken in more details, but I think the main message here is that the utilization of Georgia's renewable energy resources is one of the main priorities for our state energy policy. And finally, mentioning also our liberal taxation system. So Georgia have acquired Estonian taxation model from January 2017. And the major benefit is the abolishment of a corporate income tax payment until the profit distribution. So we don't have any social tax, we don't have any capital tax, we don't have any inheritance tax. And finally, our taxation system is based on only these 5 type of taxes with the fixed figures as it shows on the table, which is giving us quite a liberal taxation system in the country. So now moving a little bit on our electricity markets, we are on this slide. We would like to show you the different type of generation sources. Mainly our generation with almost 75% is based on the hydropower plants. So which is, as you know, the renewable energy. We have only one wind power plant, which Georgi was mentioning. Which Georgi was mentioning in the previous presentation, which was actually developed by GEDF and then privatized in 2019, which is in total our generation capacity giving us 0.5%. And 25% is generation for thermal power plants, according to this source, which is showing to the generation capacities of 2020. So on the next table here, we can see that our consumption, of course, first of all, is growing. And our dependency on the import and actually the generation from a thermal power plant is also based on the imported natural gas source. So, and as you see now, also still besides the pandemic, we have almost more than 30%, 35% is our deficit, and we are dependent on the import. So on the next slide, here we can see that electricity operating balance on the average from 2017 to 2020. And as you see here, again, the dependency and the deficit is quite big, and especially in the winter periods. And besides that, averagely, we are on the 30% dependent on the import, but in the winter periods, it comes also to more than 50%. Here we want to show that, first of all, our consumption average growth rate in the previous year, it was on 4.3%. And according to prognosis, it will be even after the pandemic, it will be 4.9%, and which means that in 2030, our consumption, sorry, will be doubled from 30 billion kilowatts today to approximately 25 billion kilowatts. So, and then in the chart above, we are showing the hypothetical deficit in 2025, which is showing also clearly that even in the summer and spring periods, when the snows are melting and we have quite a big generation out of our hydropower plants, we still, even in the summer and spring periods, we will have a deficit. So now coming to our resources and the hydro resources. Thanks God, Georgia is a rich country, generally in the renewable energy resources, but especially in the hydro resources. So we have 26,000 rivers, which is 60,000 kilometers is the total length of the all rivers. And approximate, according to the studies, annual generation of the potential will be by 50 terawatt hour, which is by installed capacity means 14 gigawatt hours. And unfortunately for us, for Georgians, but fortunately for potential investors, it's only 20% of this potential is utilized at the moment. So on the next slide, here we want to show the pipeline of the power plants. So actually this is quite a solid pipeline, which is showing that currently almost 160 projects are ongoing with an installed capacity of 5.2 gigawatts, with estimated cost of the investments by almost 10 billion USD. So they are on the various stages. But here what I want to show also, you see on the table below that most of the projects are on the feasibility stage, 80 projects out of them, which means that most of them are looking also for partners and for equity investors. So on this graphic, the potential is only 12 gigawatts, because here the remaining potential by 2.3 gigawatts are only the projects which are already indicated by the government of Georgia, by the ministry, and mostly Georgian Energy Development Fund, which means that there are some studies already done and some pre-feasibilities and some data. So here on the next slide, you can see on the map. So we have here dark blue is already the plants which are built and under operation. The light blues are plants, are ongoing projects, which was in the table in the slide before. And the green ones are the potential projects which are already indicated. Simulation tools for the renewable energy. So our government was introducing or has adopted in 2008 the PPA structure, which is power purchase agreements. And the main framework of this structure and the terms are that during the 8 winter months, Georgian government was offering $6 per kilowatt hour during the 10-year period. And as a result, the PPA
Okay, let's see.
So PPA changed.
Okay. We lost you for about a minute, but just go ahead.
Okay, so I have 2 more slides only. So, and legislation has changed, and we are liberalizing our markets. So Georgi was speaking about it, and I think Lasha will cover this topic also more deeply. So we will have from July this year, transparent and open trade market with the day-ahead trading on the exchange market, and later this year, by the end of this year, also intraday market. The new incentive mechanism was introduced in July 2020, which is the feed-in premium, which means that the Georgian government is offering 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour after a trading on the market with the cap by 5.5 cents. We hope that this new structure will attract also a lot of investors in our country. So this is covering the 8 months in a year. So speaking on the other 4 months, we are mostly targeting the export of our capacities. So on this slide, here is shown our connections to our neighbor countries with different transmission lines and with its capacities. And mainly also we are focusing also to the export potential to the Turkey and over Turkey then to the European markets. And on the last slide, I would like to speak a little bit about the main investors and the largest investors in our country in the hydro business. So first of all, Cerberus Capital is a US-based, one of the biggest US-based equity fund. And with their subsidiary, Cerberus Frontier, they are introduced on our market and investing in a small and medium hydro projects over 100 million USD in equities. So then last year also in our market, TEPCO Renewable, the Japanese giant, have joined our market and is participating in 110 megawatt project. Enka, one of the biggest Turkish construction company, is now developing the project Namakhwani, which Georgi was mentioning before, was initially developed by GEDF and privatized to Enka, and they are developing 420 megawatt project. It's 800 million investment. The K-Water, it's a Korean state-owned company, and they are also investing and developing the project in the northwest of Georgia, which is 280 megawatts project. It's a 1 billion project. Tata Power have also invested in, which is the largest Indian power company, and they have invested in the so far the biggest project after Soviet Union in the renewable energy. Georgia is 189 megawatt project. It was, if I'm not mistaken, 450 million investment. And finally, Landsvirkjun Power, it's Iceland state-owned company, a generation company who owns over 2,200 megawatts generation capacities in the Iceland, and they are also starting to with some small projects and investing in Georgia. So thank you very much for your attention, and I will be ready for any questions after the session as we planned, if I write.
Okay,
yes?
Great, Georgi. Thank you for that. That was a great overview, and a lot of potential investment opportunities are clearly in the hydro sector. Now we'll hear from Lasha Uplisashvili, who can give us an overview of the legal and regulatory enabling environment for the power sector in Georgia. Lasha?
Thank you, Dan. Let me share my screen in a second. Hope you all see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Great. Okay. Depending on in which part of the world you are right now, I would like to say good morning or good afternoon to everyone. And just to start my presentation with a little joke. A few hours ago, we were out of electricity in the office, so I think we urgently need to develop all possible plans in Georgia, to cover this deficit that we have in the country. Actually, my presentation is about the legislative changes starting from 2008, when development of renewable energy sources became top priority for the country, for Georgia. But due to the fact that legal framework and technical system was not ready for renewables by that time, development happened only in hydropower sector. And there is explanation for this actually. Before I start, I would like to say a few words about myself and about BLC Law Office. Why are we here right now and what we do. Starting from 2008, BLC being the first tier law firm, top tier law firm in Georgia, became engaged by different foreign investors willing to invest in the hydropower sector of Georgia. Since then, the experience in this particular field actually snowballed, and almost all already constructed or pipelined large renewable energy projects in Georgia are legally supported by BLC. International legal guides name BLC is BLC to be involved in more than 85% of all ongoing energy projects throughout the country with exceptional experience, which is quite expressive. As I said, government of Georgia was keen to develop renewable energy sources back in 2008, but so happened that only hydropower plants were developed. So I will try to explain what was the legislative framework, how it developed, and what are the shortfalls that still are important for the potential investors to note in the country. Well, I'm several times mentioned the year 2008, and this is a very important year for development of energy market in Georgia, because this is the year when our government decided to deregulate the market entirely, to make the market green as a greenfield, and to invite investors in the country to start investing in this field. And what is the regulation? Actually, the regulation means that the investors could negotiate terms of development of projects from scratch. They could negotiate any term that they would think is suitable and is feasible for developing the project. And this period actually lasted for 5 years, and we were also very actively involved. And during these 5 years, actually, a lot of projects were legally signed. Well, we all understand that signing the project does not mean that the project actually happened and it was constructed. But believe me, a lot of memorandums were signed at that period of time. Then in 2013, government, after they saw that there were many investors approaching them asking for different terms, it was impossible to comply with all those requests. And so they started to implement, and they actually implemented in 2013, a new mechanism of expression of interest. And they made distinction between projects that were on the list of the government, which were the projects that were already identified by the government, and their feasibility was actually done by the government, and projects that were absolutely greenfield. And they said that for the projects, to express interest for the projects that are on the list, you have to comply with this particular conditions, and those conditions were energy offtake terms, and not tariff, but terms. Let's not mix this to legal issue. There was also construction term. There was penalties, which were statutory penalties, and there was terms of governmental involvement in the project. And for those projects that were out of a list, it was the greenfield remained. But as Georgi mentioned a few minutes ago, the approach of the government with regards to PPA was power purchase agreements was approximately 6 US cents for almost every project. So this was like a general practice of the government to start negotiating from that price. Actually, after that, there was some slowdown on the markets since that period, since 2013. And our clients and other companies actually that are involved in this energy field in the country, they started complaining and they started asking questions why there was no development, sharp development at the renewable energy market. And they started questioning us whether the investment climate of Georgia is still attractive. And our answer to everyone, and it's evident right now from this perspective, that the priority, the energy field being the priority for the country has never changed. The reason was actually legislation. Georgia started implementing, actually Georgia signed the EU Association Agreement and the DCFTA, which is Deep and Comprehensive Free Trade Agreement with EU. And they also signed Protocol of Accession to the Energy Community. And they started implementing European legislation on the domestic level based on those acts that they signed in 2014. And believe me, and Europe actually knows it's not easy to implement third energy package in your domestic legislation. So in this framework, when they started implementing, there are a bunch of new laws that were enacted in the country. And I think they're listed in my, my presentation, starting from new energy law, which we have right now in the country. We have law in Georgia on promoting generation and consumption of renewable energy sources. We have PPP law. We have energy efficiency legislation. We have an environmental protection code, which is also a new document. And last but not least, as Georgi mentioned, we have new support mechanism schemes for supporting the renewable energy sources in Georgia. So I will try not to go through all those legal acts in detail because it will be very boring, I guess, for all of us. I'll just start speaking about the core acts that changed the market and changed the legislative framework. The first very important legal act, law actually, which was adopted was PPP law. And actually every project with participation of public and private entities is and was regarded as PPP even before the law. But there was no general framework of cooperation until this law became enacted. After adopting the law, Georgia created a actual usable tool of relations between private and public entities, and they just made a legal framework and like action plan how to develop projects in Georgia. And this new PPP legislation gives us, actually dictates us from A to Z how to develop the project currently in Georgia, if you're interested. You're starting from identification of the project, and then you have preparation of the project, how you do feasibility, how you apply to the PPP agency and the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development, how they do and under what criteria the project concept note, then how the government will be discussing the project on based on what documents. And actually this framework made it easy for potential investors to understand what is the development framework in the country. As an alternative to PPP law, the government of Georgia also adopted a special decree, I think it's 515 number, for projects that are not considered to be PPP projects. It's noteworthy to mention that if the investor is seeking assistance only in lands and permits throughout the project, such cooperation will not fall under the PPP law. And any other assistance, for example, in offtake, tariff, limitation of, dispatch curtailment, sovereign guarantee, it will be considered as a PPP project, and it will fall under the PPP legislation. Timescale for making PPP decision for the government is the same actually as it was in practice before adopting this particular law. PPP law also makes it possible to have direct negotiations over the project between the government and the private party for only energy projects. It is very important to mention here, and it's actually advantage for the investors to have the possibility to avoid the bureaucratic stages at the government level. The next important law, I think, is energy law, which was adopted in December of 2019. And actually, after adopting this law, we are going to the new era of energy market in the country, because the entire system is changing. And I'm not saying changing on purpose. I'm saying changing because it's not yet changed. I mean, the process is ongoing, because energy law is envisaging implementation of so many bylaws and normative acts on the domestic levels that it is impossible to do it in 1 or 2 years. So not everything is yet done. And the main principles that this new law brought to the country was unbundling the generation from distribution, and also unbundling distribution from owning the distribution facilities. Then we will have, instead of year ahead, and it's already 21st century, instead of year ahead market, we will have day ahead and intraday market already in the country. We will have a free trade of electricity. We will have a free trade of balancing electricity and balancing capacity. We will have a new license, which is market operation license for different market fields. And also, most importantly, we will have new energy exchange, which will become operational from 1st of July this year. And as I know, I think Georgi mentioned, the testing is about to approach. I think they're starting testing in May. So we don't yet know how the testing will pass, but we know how the energy exchange will work. So it means that the trade with electricity will be open now in the country. We also
Lasha,
yes.
try to wrap up in about 2 or 3 minutes, please.
Sorry? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we also have law on the renewables, which was also adopted in 2019. And this law is actually speaking already about renewables, and I'll try to be quicker. But it just gives a general framework how the renewable energy sources should be treated in the country, and it gives priority. And as Georgi mentioned in his first presentation, we have 25% of renewable sources consumption right now in the country, and we're keen to increase it in the future. That's why we're oriented to implement RES in the country. I will not stop on this slide, because I think Georgi Abramishvili has already mentioned about the support mechanism. I'll just say that this support mechanism was initially in 2020 was applied only on hydropower, because other renewable energy sources approach was under discussion. But from 29th of January this year, like 1 month ago, it was applied to the renewable energy sources in general. So now actually this is general approach how the renewable energy sources will be treated in the country. And this is challenges that are still, even though Georgia is trying to implement a lot of European legislation, directives, etc., there are also a lot of challenges remaining that is very important for potential investors to consider when they start negotiating the projects with the government. So I will not go deeper due to time constraint. I'll just say that lands are one of the most important issues, because some foreign investors think that if government ensures to transfer lands to the project, they will also transfer private lands. They will expropriate private lands and transfer, which is not the case, because we have special expropriation legislation in the country, which says that the investor itself has to do expropriation, and which is a lengthy process, so it has to be considered. Dispatch curtailment is also one issue, which is also very important. Even though renewable energy sources have priority of dispatch according to the new law there is no distinction between the size of the renewable energy sources themselves. I mean, which project has priority over other projects. So this is also one issue to be discussed with the government. A grid connection issue is also important, not to appear in the situation when we have a plant but we have no connection. And if we have a plant and there is no connection, we have to have someone to blame for, and we have to penalize someone for that. So this is very important to have a special implementation agreement with the owner of the grid. one of the very important issues is sovereign guarantee issue. As we know, being PPA or being support mechanism, someone has to offtake electricity from our source, and this someone is ESCO, which is governmental owned entity, but ESCO itself that has no assets, so there is a requirement for every project to back up ESCO's liability. So it is very important to structure the deal so as to be government to be behind ESCO when it comes to payment of money. Force majeure issues is also very important because we know force majeure can happen political and non-political. So we need to secure which cases regarded which kind of force majeure and how are we going to be compensated for that event. International arbitration, I think it's self-explanatory because every initial project, initial memorandum offered by the government contains local court to be the dispute resolution mechanism, and so international arbitration has to be in every international memorandum. And termination compensation issue. This is also very important because initially government does not offer any compensation, then again, and stamping rights, any compensation and stamping rights. For the project, I think someone is.
I think somebody's having a party.
Yeah. So basically, that's it. Then, if you have some questions, you can find me on this email address, and we can also discuss some questions at the Q&A.
Thank you. Thank you. Michela and Torniki. Yeah, I think, Lasha, sorry for rushing you. And we have now Torniki Chinchar, country manager with Photomate. And we can call on you. So,
Daniel, I
Michela,
wrote now to Michaela to switch off the microphone.
okay. Okay, Torniki, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Hello to everyone. Let's just wait for Michaela just to switch off the microphone. Hello to everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank organizers, participants, and the presenters in current situation of the world to have the platform for communications and information exchange. I'm manager for Georgian office. Let me just share the presentation first. Yeah, I'm manager for the representative office for Czech-based family-owned company Photomate. The office is representing the brand in Caucasus and Central Asian countries, of course, with the partner companies. Photomate is in partnership. As a first, I would like to discuss Huawei Fusion Solar in Central European countries, Eastern European countries, Scandinavia, Baltics, Caucasus, and Central. Photomate has delivered almost 4,000 megawatt of inverters in last 4 years and have reached in 2020 almost 100 million euro of turnover. As you can see from the map, we have almost in all our strategical markets representative offices, and our head office is located in Czech Republic. What is doing Photomate for the market is providing trainings to our partner distributors and installation companies, supporting to have efficient and optimal PV design for the system, to make the optimal calculations for capital expenditures and operational expenditures, having after-sales, site commissioning, and technical support. Till now, we were delivering products for the region from our EU stock, but after 2 months, the delivery of the products will be done from our local Georgian stock that is in the process of establishment, let's say. Mainly, we are participating in all main events of the region for our strategical markets. I would like to discuss about our new warehouse that we are establishing in Georgia, that we have made the decision together with our partner companies, as Georgia has a potential to be the hub for the region for distribution with the seaport and with the taxation system of the country for re-exporting from Georgia to Caucasus countries and even Central Asian countries. Our top markets from 2020, just to discuss the reference and old experience that we are bringing to the market, is Poland, where we have delivered of 600 megawatt of solar inverters, 377 megawatt to Ukraine, and 280 megawatt to Estonia. Let's move to our partner company products that we are offering to the market. Firstly, if we look on the solar market, Huawei is one of the best companies for solar inverter manufacturing and storage manufacturing for residential market. Huawei has huge variety of products for residential market, commercial market, and even utility scale markets for PV systems. We have additional accessories that can connect the system through inverter to the online monitoring portal that can support to the investor, let's say the customer, to manage online their productivity of the system, and in case of maintenance, act on time for improving the problem. The efficiency of Huawei solar inverters have arrived almost to 98.6%. That is almost the maximum amount, let's say, on the market for efficiency. Yes, just to discuss a small solution. So what is the solar inverter? Let's assume the PV system that generates energy and it's DC energy. Solar inverter can take DC energy and transfer to AC energy. So for residential market, for the households, energy from PV system becomes usable, let's say. So they can switch on TV, they can use fridge, and etc. Why Huawei in this situation? Because Huawei inverter has better experience to fit all the function inside the one inverter. So optimization of the system is managed smartly, let's say. For commercial field, we would like to mention the variety of products starting from 12 kilowatt till 100 kilowatt that we offer to the market, and behind 100 kilowatt till 218 kilowatt, we offer our inverters to utility scale projects. The solution that is shown on the slides is similar, let's say, to the residential market. As you can see, DC cable is connected from PV system to inverter. Energy is transferred inside the inverter, and then energy becomes usable, and from AC cable is already supplied, let's say, to commercial industrial buildings. Last year, Huawei has presented to the market residential storage with a 10 years of warranty. Let's say it's a plug and play. For manufacturing is used the fire-safe technology. Installation is easy for the customers, and there is 100% depth of discharge. As we have discussed before, we can connect inverter to the smart PV management system. So with application inside the mobile or even PC can be managed all the system productivity by customers directly, and in case of any need or any problem can be already seen inside the software. Just not to go in details, what is the need of the project, let's say, to grow the productivity in case of problem. Secondly, I would like to discuss regarding our second partner. It's X Electrics, Austrian-based company that has more than almost 100 years of history. X Electrics, together with Photomate, is offering to the market indoor and outdoor applications for high voltage storage, energy storage systems for off-grid and on-grid solutions. More than 50 partners in 60 countries are trusting our company and technologies that is engineered in Austria, let's say. I would like to move to details. What are the off-grid solutions and what are the on-grid solutions that can be done with power boxes for X Electrics. For off-grid solutions, as a first step, we could discuss diesel generator hybridization, peak power boost, genset control, renewable energy optimization, charging solutions, having the function of microgrid, and having the function of local energy community, let's say, supply of energy. In case of on-grid solutions, of course, the peak shaving. Peak shaving is more for the countries where energy costs is differentiated in daytime or nighttime or in peak time. We could use for peak power boost, for grid stabilization, for load shifting, for charge shifting, for energy trading, for reactive power compensation, for grid connection optimization, and for backup power. I would like to move and use my time more to solution side. What solutions we are offering.
Nikki, try to wrap up in a minute or two so we can get to the Q&A.
Okay. As you can see from the slide, even the name shows what products we offer together with the X Electrics to the market, starting from the wall range till unlimited range, starting from 11 kilowatt till 1 megawatt of storage. It's expandable almost to 240 megawatts. I would like just to discuss these two sides of solution, the usage of storage, because it's a future of the energy market, and then I would finalize my presentation. Let's discuss the first case, why we should use Powerbox in case of, let's say, construction site. Normally, when it's used diesel generator for construction site, energy supply is constant. So if you have additional equipment or additional tower crane, you need to bring, let's say, additional generator or use bigger generator on the site. If you use Powerbox supplied by us, you can optimize your energy use, firstly, of your diesel generators, save costs and have less impact on environment. And secondly, of course, have faster payback for your investments and supply energy, let's say, when usage is on the peak, and when usage is less, you can charge the battery, or in work breaks, you can charge the batteries. So the battery is working constantly while the working hours. Second solution I would like to discuss now in Georgia is actually installing the EV chargers. Let's say the grid can supply 20 kilowatt of energy, and you can charge 4 cars in a specific period of time. If you use a power box supplied from us, can maximize, let's say, supply of energy together with a grid to EV chargers, and instead of having capital expenditures and having extra vehicle chargers and investments for this, you can charge 4 times more cars with the support of Powerbox. I would like just to discuss 2 cases now, as we were discussing the hydro projects and the PV projects. Let's say in case of that's more interesting also for grid operators in Georgia. Let's assume the photovoltaic system that is generating energy for consumers, but there is a grid blackout. Once there is a grid blackout, inverter is not anymore feeding the grid. It means the photovoltaic system is stopping to supply energy, and the energy generated from system is lost. Consumers don't have energy. So what is the solution to such system? The solution is power box that can show to the system or PV system that it's, let's say that it has a grid function, and in milliseconds it continues to renew the productivity of the PV system. Even in the case of blackout, the energy is continuously supplied to the consumers. The second part is a power plant. Power plant is considered as a renewable in the world, but even power plant needs the generator, diesel generator, because in case of blackout, diesel generator is coming into action, and it's not totally friendly, let's say, to the environment. And the solution that we offer to the market, it's the future of the market, is power box that can optimize the usage of the fuel of diesel generator instead of having bigger diesel generator for the power plants. And even in the case of blackout, power plant continues to work, energy is not lost, and it's supplied to the consumers. Okay. I would like just to add one part, the performance warranty of the batteries after even 10 years maintains 70% of capacity for the charging and for discharging. And the number one uniqueness of the product that we are offering to the market is safety and environmental sustainability. And of course, multifunctionality and expandability to 240 megawatts that almost none other manufacturers have on the market. And the usage of lithium iron phosphate batteries that is low toxicity on the market, more long-term performance, and low cost for the product, of course. Thanks for the presentation. Just would like to add for the time for the presentation that we are open for business communications on the market and to bring the knowledge and experience on the market for, let's say, potential partners in the country.
Torniki, thank you very much for that presentation. That was really interesting. And I love to see such a professional, good company coming to Georgia. That's just great. So we have time to answer a few of these questions. And I know that Georgi and Lasha had volunteered to take some of them. So let me go back and we'll take as many as we have time for here. So there was a question, Lasha, going forward, what are the perspectives of the existing and assigned PPAs and the potential of new PPAs on the horizon?
Well, this is a mix of legal and political question, actually. Legally, existing PPAs do exist, and there is no question mark regarding those PPAs, unless there is some political intervention from the government side, which legally should not happen. And regarding the new PPAs in the horizon, actually, this support mechanism that was implemented is considered to be supplementing the PPAs in future. But we have a special wording in the support mechanism document that a separate, different condition can be negotiated depending on the project itself, which again leaves room for PPAs to exist even in future.
Okay, thank you. Georgi Abramashvili, we had a question. Could you please elaborate more on plans for regional energy connections? Sorry, the question moved here.
Yeah, okay. Would you please elaborate more on plans for regional energy trade after the market exchange is fully established in Georgia?
Right.
Yes, actually, I forgot to mention that our exchange market is operated and will be operated by Nord Pool, the Norwegian company who is operating also in the Europe and mostly in the north of the Europe. And of course, it will be also possible on our Georgian exchange market to trade, to have a intraday and day-ahead market, day-ahead trading for the import and for the export. And regarding the network and regarding the infrastructure, so Georgian state electric system is working very hardly to increase their capacities with the interconnections with their neighbors. But as I showed also before on my slide, so there are quite big capacities for the interconnections and for the export capacities towards our neighbors. And actually the system is so far that we are now working with some auction system. And so months before the actual time of the exports, there are some auctions between the companies who can trade and get the capacity of the national grid for the export. But so far, actually, the capacities are not fulfilled. So there is a potential, and there is an option always to export the energy in any direction.
Okay, let's throw a couple questions at Torniki. What is the max power of the inverter, and does Photomate provide microgrid appliance equipment also?
Maximum for solar inverter now for utility scale, let's say, because the maximum utility scale is 215 kilowatts inverters. That could be supplied just in end of second quarter, but till that time we could use 185 kilowatts. But it's totally dependent what kind of projects they're engineering, or that has to be calculated from our technical team. They could just directly contact to my email, and then we would organize like a support for them if they have projects in Georgia. We are already, let's say, cooperating with 80% of companies of installators in Georgia and supporting them to learn how to project, let's say, how to do the projecting and technical designing for the project.
Okay, let me throw a question to Lasha. When you see this inverter in the power box, do you view that as a threat to incumbents like Telasi, or is this a game changer in terms of the competitive energy landscape?
You mean the innovations of the new law?
Yeah, well, the grid, when you see these new grid appliances where you can get power and store power and charge your electric vehicle and have your own backup.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's an advantage because they have more consumption of the power. I don't see why it should be a problem for distributors of energy at all. It's a common approach everywhere, and it has never been any kind of problem.
Okay, we had a good question here about market risk insurance. I was actually thinking about that when you mentioned the 5.5 cent and the 1.5 cent. That question is for Georgi Abarashvili.
Yeah, so regarding the market risk insurance, actually this incentive is the only one which ensures our market risk, but actually we don't have a floor. So it means that even if it's the trading on the exchange market will be 0 cent, so then we can get the 1.5. So 1.5 is the floor, actually 1.5 cent, which can get the renewable energy sources so far. But we have, as I said, the overall cap by 5.5 cent. So, but we are working now actually with the ministry, with the ministries, because Ministry of Finance is very, very, how would say, they are securing their resources, let's say. So to change the scheme from yes, from winter months to the summer months, because actually usually the hydrogen is approximately on our rivers, which are coming from the Caucasus, is 50% comes to the 8 winter months and 50% to the summer months. And but because the prices in the summer are quite low, lower than in winter, so we want to working with them to change this incentive and to have this supportive mechanism in the summer months where the prices are lower, and then operate on our own in the winter months. Actually, I should mention also regarding the export potential or export capacities that our deficit so far now it's already not already 8 months, but to 10 months. In July and August, it's quite a good big consumption of the energy in Georgia. And so far, the prices are so good that actually it doesn't make sense to export any energy, even to trade on the open market in the summer months. It's more attractive for a moment in Georgia than in our neighbor countries.
Okay, well, we have many more questions, and Inessa, maybe we can get back to some of these offline, and I think we need to wrap it up because we're at the half hour, but I would like to thank all the panelists. This was so interesting. I could have listened to all of you for the whole time because I learned so much, and this is such an exciting time for Georgia to see the new laws and these new technologies come to pass. So it's a very positive time for Georgia. And I'd like to thank all the audience too that participated and gave such great questions. We unfortunately have to bring it to a close now, and Inessa, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Dan, for moderating this and for very interesting discussion. Thanks a lot to all of our speakers for very informative presentations. And of course, thanks to all for participation. We will make all the presentations available within 24 hours together with the recording. And before we wrap up, I just wanted to again thank Photomate, our presenting sponsor, as well as Huawei and X-Electric. And I would like to let all the participants, as we have discussed Georgian energy market today, I would like to let you know that we have recently launched the Georgia country platform at our own digital tool, Enerloop, which enables international companies to get comprehensive power industry data and analysis. It is designed to benefit the whole value chain of the energy market, including private developers, EPC companies, engineering firms, technology suppliers, and we are delighted to partner with, to cooperate with our knowledge partners, BLC Law Office, GDF, and GREDA, to keep our international clients updated on developments in Georgia. If you're interested to get more information about this, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us or request a demo at the official website. Thanks a lot to all of you once again. It was a great session. Stay safe, stay healthy, and until next Energy Talks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.